We'd like to create a login form which will contain a field for username, a field to fill the password, and then a login button and a cancel. So let's just start by creating our login form.html. The login form, okay, let's define first the HTML and then we will we'll apply some CSS styling on it. I will have the style defined inside my HTML. I will not use a dedicated script for that. That can be reused between several HTML files, but in my case, I will only have the styling here. Okay, so let's just give a title to our form by using a heading. I will just call it login form. Login form. This is not the title of the window. It is what is going to be displayed in the page. And I will use the tag form to be able to submit this data to an endpoint on the server. Let's say that I'm using a post method and the action should be just a plain JavaScript. I will not send my form to an endpoint, a real endpoint on the server. So let's just do the following. I like to be able to have like an image, like an avatar, and place this image inside a container. That should be a div. Okay, so this div will contain an image. Let's just use an avatar for that. This one. So use this in my page, and I'd like to be able to give some styling to this. So let's say that the div will have a CSS class, which will be something like image container, and let's define the class image container with dot, the name image container. Okay, and I should put some CSS code in here. And also, I like to be able to apply some styling on the image itself. Therefore, let's just say that this will also have a CSS class, which could be like an avatar. So let's define our avatar class. Right. Below this, I will have a container which will display the controls to fill the username and password. Let's say that this will have also a class, and in my case, I will have a container class. Let's just create this class. And in here, I will have a label. And this label will be for a control with the name username. And it will just say that you should enter the username. Then I will have an input with type text, which is the default value. And this will have a placeholder just to tell the user to enter the username here. Okay, and this should be required. Then I also have a label for the password, and I'm using tab 9, which helps me fill with what it expects that I need to put here. And this will be an input of type password. I will have a placeholder saying enter password, and the name of the field should be I will need to use the name of the field because I also have here the label for this name, which will guide the tab when I'm navigating through the controls. And this one should also have a name. And beside for that, you know what, I can put required without having to set the value for the attribute, like so. So what I'm saying is that I need to have a name for the field in order to send some data to the server. Okay, so this is the form up to now. I have an avatar image, I have the username with a label, the password with a label. And then I'd like to have a button, which will be of type submit to send the data to the server. And the content of the button, it's the inner text of the button, it's actually what should be displayed on the button. And then I would like to have also a label to remember those credentials. So let's say that I have a label, and in here inside I would like to have a checkbox. Therefore, I will use a type checkbox. Let's call it remember me. Should be remember. And the name of the field is remember. The type it's checkbox, and let's say that this one should be checked. And the text would be remember me. Okay, and this is what I have inside the container for filling the username and password and then checking the remember me checkbox. But then I would like also to have another container with the same class in which I will put a cancel button, for instance. Come on, like just to end this tag. Yeah, so in here I will have a button with the type button. I will not use a reset for canceling for deleting that, but anyway. And the button should have a class. Let's say this will be a cancel button class. And let's then define here a cancel button class. The cancel button should have the text cancel. And after that, I like to have an inline span, which will contain the text forgot password in order to allow the user to recover the password. Let's say that this is of type CSS forgot password. And let's define the forgot password span.forgot password class. And this would be a span which will contain inside the text forgot password, but I like to be able to click on that. So let's say forgot password question mark, and this text will also be a reference. In my case to the same document, but I should have an endpoint to be able to recover my password. Let's see what we did up to now. So I'm running this. Let me just check what's happening because it doesn't start my Chrome. Okay, so now it starts Chrome. So it looks like this. Let me just arrange this a bit. You see that I have a mess with all the controls that are in a normal flow, having several divs. I have a div here for the container and another div with the controls to fill the username and password, and then the cancel button and the link to recover the password. So this is how it looks like without any styling. Now let's just try to adjust this a bit. So let's go first and say that we would like to first to add a CSS for inputs. Let's say that for every input of type text, but also for an input of type password, I like them to look the following way. So this is so for input of type text and input of type password. Let's do the following. Set the width to 100%. They should fill the content of the form. If I refresh, then I see that this is filling the div and the row, and this is filling the row also. Then let's say the box sizing to border box, and leave some space, set the margin. I'd like to make some space and display this component 8 pixels from the top and the bottom elements, and I will start from the 0 on the left side and on the right. So I will not have a margin here on the left and on the right, but I like to have a margin on top and bottom. So this is how it looks like with leaving some margin. Then I like also, you see, if I fill some value here, then it will start just at the edge of the border. It's just after the border. I like to have some padding. So let's say the padding should be 12 pixel from the top and from to the bottom, and 20 pixels on the left and the right. And now when I refresh, you see that when I enter the content here, it looks nice. I have some space, and it doesn't. It's not so tightly aligned to the edge of the border. Now, besides this, let's display this. I said let's display this as an inline block. Okay, and also set the border to be 1 pixel solid color, and let's say the color should be some gray value like this one. Yeah, so now it's not that emphasis when it's not selected, but when it got selection, you see that's black. Now, that's about all what we do with these controls. But what about the avatar, which looks terrible? It is not centered, and come on, we don't want to show this face like this. So first of all, go to the image container, and you know what? Let's call it avatar container, because this is what it is. So this should be an avatar container. And the avatar container should, for instance, let's align the content with text align center. So now when I refresh this, you see that it's in the center of the div. And then what we could do would be use some margins. So let's use 24 pixels margin up to the top, 0 pixels for bottom, 12 pixels for the left, let's say, and 0 pixels to the right. So now I have some margins on this. Yeah, now let's do some styling on the avatar itself, on the image. Like for instance, set width to 40%. Yeah, it's smaller. And then use some border radius which will round the border. For instance, if I say border radius to 25%, then you see it's rounding the corners. But if I go up to 50%, you see, come on, you see now that it is like around all over. Yeah, so this is what we have up to now. This looks okay. The controls looks okay, apart from the font family, which is really terrible. So let's say that we should use the font family for the border to be Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif, and this will look a bit more stylish. And then I should do something to this area because it's really not aligned anymore. It is not what we should have in the end. So let's go and define some style for the buttons. We define some style for inputs, but we'll do the same with buttons. So with all tags of type button, we will set the background color. And let's use some green. So we use a bit of red, some green, and some blue. And this is how it looks like, the color. But I don't want to have the border. So let's say the border should be none. Let's use the color white for the text. Now that this looks a bit better. Then, what else? Let's use some padding. So inside the control, we should have a distance from the border. Let's say we use 14 pixels to the top and bottom, and 20 pixels for left and right. And now it looks like this. And then let's say that I also like to have a margin which will leave some space between other controls and this one and the border of a button. Let's say I like to have a top and bottom margin, but not on the left and the right side. So this would be our margin. And then, you know what? I like them to take 100% of the area. They will look like this. And also, when I hover them, I like to change the type of the cursor to be a pointer. So they will look like a link on which I can click. Then, when I hover this, I like to reduce the opacity of the control. So let's apply a style for hovering, not the body, but the button. So button hover, I should set the opacity to be like 18%. And now when I hover this, you see that they lose opacity, they become 20% transparent. Now, I should also style this cancel button and forgot password because they are not well placed in the form. So I need to define a cancel button here. By the way, the main container, for instance, I can say that I like to have a padding on that, like 16 pixels. So when they will leave some space from the border to the content of the form. Some other stuff we can do, like we can say that for the whole form we should have a border, and our border should be of size 5 pixel, you know what, with a solid color, and the color should be something like a gray, which is closer to white. So let's then see what we did up to now. This is border. Okay, so border. Okay, and now we see this 5 pixel border around our form. Now, I said that we need to change the cancel. and the forgot password as well. So let's go here, and for the cancel button, first of all, we would like to change the width to be auto, so that it will only take the space needed by the content. And then we should also have a padding on this. Like for instance, we say that we need only 10 pixels to the top and bottom margin, but you know what, because it is a size auto, let's use like 18 pixels for left and right. So now it's smaller than this in margin, in padding to the top and bottom, but okay, looks okay. Let's change the background color of the control. Let's say that the background color of this should be some red or pink color. So let's use F4 for almost red, 4.3 for green, and 3.6 for white, for blue. Sorry. And now it looks like red. Okay. And I like also to align this forgot password to the right side of the content. Therefore, let's go to the span of class forgot password. And in here, I should say I should have a float. This should be a float aligned to the right. And the padding, let's use the top padding of 16 pixels. And when I refresh this, you see that it is a bit below the middle of the div. And this is just to say that in case you forgot password, you need to click here. So that's about all what we do to style the form.